Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's trade review session. It will be slightly shorter than usual just because I have to rush out to get some things done for tomorrow, or finalise a few things for tomorrow. And as I mentioned on the comments earlier this morning, there will be no trading tomorrow because I have to travel to and from a family funeral. In terms of general trading today, it's a bit of a tough day, to be honest. I do think that the upside is limited, and I think we've seen that when we rallied up to about 34,780 in the futures contract just before lunch. We've fallen we've fallen as much as 160 pips from that level, but we're currently off by about 120. So I do think there is a ceiling in terms of what we're going to see, but as you'll know from the DAX trades, one that I ran over from yesterday and three that I put on today, it's definitely not clear cut. There has been definite strength in the index futures this morning. We saw that in the DAX, a rally up to about 15,560. I have a stop in on yesterday's position at 15,575, so just got a bit preoccupied with reducing the risk, but I've managed to reduce a couple of the positions for very small profits as we've dipped back down to 15,504 where we currently are. Obviously the record highs of both of these markets are within touching distance as well. If we do get up to those levels and attempt to push through, I do think there'll be a lot of stock covering, there'll be a lot of stops triggered, there will be people hedging positions differently as well, so I think the potential, if we get up to close to 35,000 in the Dow futures, the potential to rally quite aggressively through that level is still there, and obviously there are 2 days worth of US trading now before the weekend. In terms of the ECB meeting today, the outcome would be described as dovish, I think. Whilst there is some changes towards the forward guidance from an interest rates perspective, there is no rate increase, and the overarching word, as it is with the Fed, is that the central banks will continue to be accommodating in terms of their monetary policy. So as much as I think we are approaching a ceiling in these markets and happy to sell into the rallies, I found the DAX position against me for the majority of the day, so that's curtailed my trading. What I don't want to do, especially when I'm away tomorrow and then it's the weekend, so effectively it's a long weekend, I don't want to increase my exposure too significantly over the course of the next period. So you'll see in the Dow I have, just as we were falling, now this was, I could probably move this up a little bit now, when we were falling lower or earlier, we got down to about 34,620. I put a buy limit order in about 50 points below the market, and as you can see there, sorry, I just put some definition. So as you can see on the screen now, on the crosshairs, I have a limit selling just at the same level that I sold this morning, 34,780, which was a nice trade, and I held it a little bit longer, but again, going back to the DAX exposure, I didn't hold it for particularly long. I think I just took 21 pips worth of profit on that trade. So again, I think it's a good example for people who are looking, and I know that one or two of you did get overexposed on the DAX as well. It's an important lesson to ensure that you keep those positions under control, so that you that the Dow position I would have ran for considerably longer and taken more out of it had I not had so many DAX trades on at that time. And the DAX was holding up reasonably firm. It was refusing to break down very aggressively at all, and it's only since Christine Lagarde started her conference that we've seen a bit of a movement to the downside. So around the US Open, I don't have a particularly strong bias. I just think that this market is running out of steam as it heads even slightly higher. So there is a slight preference to be short into rallies, but obviously trying to keep my position under control in doing so as well. So there are 2 trades in there in the Dow. What I will do, I think, is I'll just move my limit buy up a touch, so that it's closer to where we're currently trading. So I'll probably just go in there at 34,614, so just below the low of or the most recent low that we see there. Sorry, let me just put the definition back on these. If anybody thinks I've been swimming, I haven't. It's exceptionally hot here, and I seem to be sweating all day. I don't mind if I'm sweating and I have a bad position on, I can justify it, but when I'm sweating just sitting here, you do start to worry. But this weather is extreme, as I'm sure you're all experiencing, and the one thing that is non-existent in Ireland is air conditioning, so we're having to just tough it out. Let's look at some of the other markets, and we'll do 5 minutes over the results. The results have been fantastic again this week. Very few losing trades. The DAX position that I have on at the moment is the one carried over from yesterday. Is probably the most significant, and half of the reason for carrying the trade is that the week was doing so well at that time. I kind of need to get out of that mindset a little bit, because it does cost me a few pips every week, but when I am prepared to give the trade more space or longer to try and correct itself when I'm in profit. Obviously, if I was losing money at this stage, I think I would have tightened up the stocks a little bit. So probably a pattern that I want to get out of personally, because it's opportunities wasted sometimes. Gold's trading at 1800. I was going to sell it at 1803 just before we started this session. Popped up a little bit on the back of the Christine Lagarde conference. I still think gold's next move is tied, but I sold gold yesterday at 1801.90. It rallied up to about 1805. And obviously took profit earlier this morning. Could have taken more profit. Definitely didn't maximise the return on that particular trade. But again, similar sort of thing, trying to keep positions under control. Everything was hampered a little bit by my exposure to Dow. So just build in some simple rules for yourself about how many trades. DAX is the word I was looking for. So just build in some simple rules around the maximum number of trades that you hold on one particular commodity, i.e. DAX, be that 2, and then maybe 3 index trades as a maximum as well. Keeps you safer, and will mean that you have more capacity to react to situations as they evolve. So we have about 50 seconds or so to go to the opening bell. The Dow is reasonably flat for the time being, 34,660. So about where we were when we started this session. 30 seconds or so to go, and the market's going to start to fluctuate a little bit as we get closer to the bell. It'll just be interesting to see what type of orders come through at the beginning. As I said, we've pushed back, we've regained all of the losses that we saw on Monday. Pushed back within touching distance of those record highs. I don't follow the S&P or on Nasdaq too often, but I presume that there goes the opening bell. So slight little lift at the beginning. Again, not a great deal of impetus, and kind of reaffirming the lack of bias that I have personally, and that we're not running massively in either direction. If we continue to trade around this level for the next 5 minutes or so, or even slightly above it, I think my preference would be to to sell into the Dow. One thing I would encourage you to remember, just as we're looking at this and whether we get near to any of the trading levels that we have in, and the market's tailed off a little bit now, going back towards our buy level, about 40 pips away from that at the moment. Just remember to cancel the other order if one of the orders does get triggered. So it seems to be stuck in, and we are only 1 minute into trading, but it is stuck in quite a narrow range. And as with me, I don't think there is a clear sense of direction, and I don't think there's anything necessarily that is going to provide that sense of direction, other than some real blowout earnings over the next period. I am having a couple of connectivity issues today. I think the warm weather is probably, and I don't know if this is possible, I'll ask Sam, but I think the warm weather is even affecting the internet connections where I live. But yeah, look, the market hasn't moved a great deal. I think we started looking at this at 34,664. It's still around there, 34,666. So I'll leave the limit orders there for a while. As we've seen, and as I've mentioned a few times, after about 5 minutes, we tend to get a bit of a second wind, and we see a different movement. But at the moment, we're 34,650 as a low, 34,675 as a high. So really narrow range, buyers and sellers cancelling themselves out at the moment, and no clear direction of where this market wants to go. If anything that I would read into the price action that we've seen since we've started, it's probably confirming that slightly softer bias. But if I can get 20 or 25 pips more out of the market, from a sell perspective, then that's ideally what I want to do. Sometimes you need to be patient and wait. I'll just bring up the results whilst that continues to play off in the background. So I've coloured out Friday. There will be no trading tomorrow. I'll be in the car from 8 a.m. and I probably won't be back till 8 or 9 p.m. tomorrow evening. So I won't do any trading. I have 2 trades left open, possibly a Dow trade if it triggers in the next few minutes. So one DAX trade from yesterday, another DAX trade from Thursday. There was one substantial stop, forgot about that, on Monday. Long DAX, which I stopped out with a loss of 173 pips, took some other small losses that day, or probably the following day on Tuesday as the market started to recover. So 2 trades in yellow still open, both DAX. I may run one of them over to tomorrow, but if I do that, then I'll make sure that there is a stop on this trade anyway, or on Wednesday's trade, but I'll make sure that there's stops and TP levels on those trades if I do decide to run them over. Potentially there is 150 or so pips worth of risk on that profit, so maybe 700 pips so far over the course of the 4 days. 4 banging weeks. Can't complain about anything really. Every week has been nicely profitable, and hopefully that will continue to through to the end of July as well, with 1 week left to go. So just looking back, I don't think there's anything else really to mention about those trades. Monday definitely overtraded, cut back or pulled back from that overtrading on each of the other days. Today has probably been, our trade does trigger, it will be a similar number of trades to Tuesday, so fairly consistent Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. In terms of the number of trades, 38 trades in total at the moment, 35 of them winners, profits on every single commodity. The best day was Monday, or it's a combination of Monday and Tuesday, and we do have a trade that triggered. So the buy side has triggered. I'm gonna cancel the sell order, delete the sell order while I'm there, and we'll continue to monitor this buy trade. Just have a quick look at what we're doing from The DAX may well be, and there are ways that the Dow and my DAX positions are going to compensate each other. I am obviously short the DAX. I might just take a slight loss on one of those positions. Gold is still ticking down. Yeah, I'm now long Dow. You can see some of the delays that I'm getting with price action. So I'll continue to monitor that. And I think the DAX trade that I have at 453, I think I'll just take a loss, or I'll put a stop on that in the next couple of minutes. I will speak to you all again next week, and hopefully if you are trading tomorrow, you are very successful. Thank you.